It has happened again. Another new FPS title with tight skill-based matchmaking settings that is ruining the fun that most of us experienced initially when it comes to the play tests and the release. Yes, I'm talking about the finals that was released recently. Many was expecting Embark Studios to have skill-based matchmaking in their game, and pretty early on got to know that that is the case, so no surprise there. But I guess many players wasn't expecting the sharp turn it took only a short while after release. Embark Studios felt as if matches weren't properly balanced and that it happened also too often, meaning that new players were getting set up for a fight against skilled, already experienced opponents, making for a somewhat miserable experience. So they decided to make changes within the skill-based matchmaking algorithms, saying we've made some changes to our skill-based matchmaking to ensure better quality games. This means matchmaking times are likely to be ever so slightly longer, but you should find yourself in slightly closer matches. Well, the word slightly falls short since the matches are closer indeed, or should we say sweater, about 99% of the time now compared to how it was during the betas or when the game was released. I often hear people arguing and also game developers defending skill-based matchmaking in their games, saying that it needs to protect new players and be able to give them a fun and good experience as well, matching them with somewhat equal opponents. Well, sounds or looks good on the paper, but shouldn't something like skill-based matchmaking go both ways if it's going to be a good thing or match for everyone? At least a bit looser settings compared to how it feels today in the finals. Because what happens is that players above average or higher, let's say with everything between a 1.5 up to 3 KD, will get a much more tighter setting or results, you might say, when it comes to their matchmaking, which might result in the fact that you'll recognize one or two players even since you just played against them like 2 matches ago. And it goes almost without saying that you'll have to sweat and play your very best every game you'll get into. Now, some people will argue and say, well, if you can't stand the fact that you're playing against players with your own skill level or higher, then why are you playing in the first place, or go play another game or something like that? I believe there's a bit of a misconception here, since I do understand if that's the case in a ranked or a competitive game or game mode, but what about a casual arcade shooter like the finals? That was initially made to be a fun game with some crazy over-the-top stuff in the game that would foremost make people have a good and relaxing time playing a video game. The skill-based matchmaking is for sure also implemented in the casual game mode such as Quick Cash, because I felt a big difference when I came back to the game after a bit of a break, you might say, when it comes to the overall gaming experience. In my last The Finals video, I talked about the fact that it can be hard to solo queue in a game such as the finals. I wasn't sure if the matchmaking settings or algorithms could, for example, sort people out that are playing together as a trio in one lobby with other teams, you might say, and people that are solo queuing in another lobby. I guess that would be fair if it's possible, but also believe it's not the case in the finals. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, since the majority of players are playing solo in most games, also in a shooter such as the finals, it puts you sometimes in a bit of a disadvantage if you both have to play against organized teams, if you will, but also with harsh SBMM settings on top of that. Add to that also the fact that you won't get a time out or get punished if you leave an ongoing match in the finals. So all of a sudden you might be only 2 players playing against 2 or 3 other teams of 3 if you are unlucky. Then some people might say, well, you shouldn't be on a timeout, maybe not being able to join another game for, let's say, 15 minutes if you leave a game in progress, if it's a casual game mode. And again, in theory, that might be so. However, the finals is not the standard 5v5 or 6v6 kind of FPS game, so losing one player in the finals, even though a third player might join later, it affects your team chances or your team's chances to win. So in order to protect solo queuing players, and not only new ones by a SBMM algorithm, I believe that such a penalty system needs to be implemented in, for example, Quick Cash as well, especially since it seems as if skill-based matchmaking is already there. Another thing that can be, let's say, a byproduct of SBMM is that it might result also in bad connections or in lag, since the skill-based matchmaking tries to pair you with other players that has similar skill level, and you therefore can come up against players that lives far away from you, which might lead, as mentioned, to worse connection between players, affecting performance. Skill-based matchmaking is a controversial topic and has been so for quite a long time now and is here to stay. I've talked about it when it comes to other games such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 as an example. And I have over time learned to adapt, being someone that are able to do well in a FPS game even so. But sometimes I do get tired of modern matchmaking since it makes me feel as if I'm playing CS2 or Rainbow Six Siege all over again, when I just want to go into a game, an arcade shooter such as the finals, and have fun. Knowing that it's also possible to do that in a casual game mode or playlist, also as someone that are solo queuing most of the time. But SBMM won't go away, and Embark Studios will most likely stick to it as well. But please, Embark Studios, widen up or at least loosen up the SBMM settings in the finals at least. I believe it would be good for the game, beneficial for the game, since I believe that more players than you think might get tired or bored because of the actual SBMM settings at the moment and move away from the game. I'm not per se completely against SBMM, but I do believe it has gone too far in many games nowadays, making the experience so much different from what it initially was intended to be when it comes to a certain game. So towards the end of the video, I wanted to give you a bit of perspective of how I used to feel about older games when I started to play FPS games many years ago, because I can understand that it might be hard to understand, especially if you're a younger player, how games felt back in the days, if you're most of the time are used to play games with skill-based matchmaking. But back in the days, you would most likely get hit hard when starting to play a new game. But if you were consistent and put in the time needed to improve, the reward was so much bigger when you start to climb the ranks, getting more kills and overall improve in the game. What I'm trying to say is that there wasn't really much or anything that was holding your hand when getting into a new game. No SBMM, no EOMM, and no over-the-top aim assist to help you out. It was you, your gun, the opponent waiting for you on the other side, meaning their spawn. Sometimes I simply miss that. I hope for the sake of the finals as a new game out there, that they might find a middle ground, you might say, when it comes to skill-based matchmaking in their game. My advice is to be careful if they want to continue to see good numbers also in the upcoming future when it comes to player count. With that said, I will end the video here, but please let me know your thoughts about skill-based matchmaking in the finals, or maybe overall when it comes to FPS gaming. I'll read your comments, and if I can, I'll answer as well. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to talk to you soon again in another video. Take care, cheers.
The tough shells are back in the arena, folks! A bit of virtual catastrophe for the big splash. Team wiped. That's the final whistle, and the result is in.